Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are going to wait maybe a few more minutes just to wait for some other folks to show up. Thanks so much for attending today's webinar. We are joined by Evan Thomas from Dockside Physio, and we will be discussing the exercise piece, kind of a continuation of the webinar he did back in maybe June or maybe May.
Yeah, actually, I think, June or something. Yeah, for sure.
That's a while ago. Yeah, time really flies when you're in a pandemic. So, yeah, thanks, folks, for joining us today. I'm just going to get started with some interactive parts of the webinar. So here's a poll for folks, and the question is: have you registered for Go by Bike Week yet? So go ahead and answer that if you feel so inclined.
I'm just trying to see if I can see that, but I don't know.
I will.
I'll just assume everybody said yes.
Looks like 100% so far, which is great.
Sweet.
All right, so let's close that. It's been about 30 seconds. And oh, yeah, so 96 said yes, and 4% said no. So to you 4%, this isn't like a shaming or anything, but go ahead and register for Go by Bike Week. There's so many great prizes to be won. Literally for just joining this webinar, you're entered into a prize as well. So that's really exciting. And it's just a great week to be riding your bike. It's a bit smoky again today, but the sun is out and I can see some blue sky as well. So it's just a great opportunity for folks to get active and get where you need to go by your bike. Here is another poll for folks. This question is, where are you most likely to go by bike? So we'll let that one sit there for a minute too. Evan, I don't know if you can see this, but the answers are to work or school, shopping, gym, cafe, restaurant, to the park, beach or farm, Lockside Trail, E&N Trail, Galloping Goose Trail, or other. So we'll see what folks are saying.
All good spots. Absolutely.
Good spots.
Especially the coffee shops.
Exactly. All right, that's been open for a few seconds now.
Yeah, I think the quality went up. It went up 1 point. I think it's like two out of 10. Okay. So it's still good out there, but obviously be mindful, or what you're comfortable with, for sure.
For sure. Okay, results are in. So yeah, about 50% said they're most likely to bike along the trails. We have great trails in Victoria. Let's see, we have 17% to work or school, 17% to shopping, gym, cafe, restaurant, 8% to the park, beach, farm, and then 8% other. I did other on our last webinar as well, and I'm still not sure what other means. So if folks want to type in where they're going by bike, I'm interested. There's a question bar in your sidebar here that you'll be able to type questions into. And hopefully we'll be able to get to questions that you have about the webinar by the end. So yeah, it's about 4 minutes after. We've got quite a few people attending today, which is awesome. Really glad to see all you folks here. And maybe we'll get started. My name is Justine, and I am the Bike Skills Program Coordinator here at the Bike to Work Society. This is a part of Go by Bike Week, which is kind of our new version of Bike to Work Week. It's pandemic related, just because not everyone's back at work this year, and we're just trying to celebrate folks who are riding their bikes anyway. So yeah, thank you for attending today. This webinar is called From All Angles, the exercise piece, and we're so lucky to be joined by Evan Thomas. He's done 2 other webinars with us this summer, and yeah, we're excited to hear what he has to say about the exercise piece of learning about bike fitting and stretching and feeling comfortable on your bicycle. Evan is a fellow of the Canadian Academy of Manipulative Physiotherapy, FCAMP. after having completed all manual therapy levels of the orthopedic division of the Canadian Physiotherapy Association. He also holds certifications in concussion management, dry needling / IMS, and bike fitting. And Evan is currently working on his coaching certification through Cycling BC and is excited to continue supporting and growing the cycling community in Victoria. I know Evan also will be introducing himself in more detail in his presentation, so don't worry if you didn't hear all of that. Just a few housekeeping notes about the webinar itself. Oh, sorry.
That's good. No, go for it.
If folks are experiencing any audio or video difficulties, there's not really too much I can do from my end, but I would suggest just closing down the whole program and then re-entering using the same link that you would have used to enter today. Anything you would have missed is going to be recorded. We're recording now, and it'll be put up on our website hopefully by next week. We're trying to get everything up and running as quickly as possible. Like I said earlier, any questions that you may have, you can ask them in the question box. We'll try to get to them by the end of the webinar. If not, you can definitely email myself. That's justine@bike2work.ca. And then I'll pass it over to Evan. It's also a special day today. You'll see that Evan is wearing his orange shirt for Orange Shirt Day. Orange Shirt Day is about honoring residential school survivors and their families. And this is a really special event that we're supporting as well with the Bike to Work Society. And if you come to our celebration station this afternoon, we're going to be at Saanich Municipal Hall. You can pick up your orange shirt there. We're also selling our t-shirts. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that we're on Lekwungen land, we're on Coast Salish territory, Tumut territory, and Wasanich territory. Yeah, we're so lucky to be living where we do, and it's a good day to be remembering the folks who are affected by residential schools. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Evan for his presentation on the exercise piece of all angles. So thanks so much.
Cool, thanks, Justine. Yeah, thanks again for having me back for another webinar. Yeah, so this is kind of like what what Justine mentioned before. This kind of builds on top of the previous two webinars. So we kind of talked about the bike fitting first, and then last time we kind of talked about some cycling injuries and a little bit of exercise stuff there in the mix too. And this one's more kind of focused on the exercise stuff. It's something that I get asked a lot when people come see me for various things about, oh, like, should I be doing stuff off the bike and you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, this is just kind of going over some things, trying to keep it in a simple format as best I can, because we're all different. And that's okay. And so some things work for some people and some things don't, and that's fine. And so a lot of it is starting off with some basic stuff that you can kind of explore on your own there, or if you need advice from a physio or whoever, then obviously we got a lot of really qualified people in the city for sure. Lots of physios in Victoria. And so if you want to know more, you can kind of talk to them, because they're definitely the movement specialists for sure. So yeah, so that's what today's webinar will be on, is the exercise component of things, and help keep you moving well and keeping you strong and building on your strength if you want to do that too. So what I'll do is I'll start got carried away here just into my spiel already. So let me kind of start this here with it. So I won't spend too long on this, because I'm sure people are probably tired of seeing this slide from the other ones. But yeah, so I kind of got into biking in 2008, and then I finished my kinesiology degree shortly after that, and then I went to Western for my physio schooling, and ended up buying a bike while I was out there, because it was way too expensive to ship my previous Norco cyclocross bike. I ended up actually getting the exact same thing, just a newer model. So that was good, kept it familiar. And then yeah, once we got back here after kind of moving from just outside of Toronto, me and my partner got married, and then I did my bike fit certification, and then we opened up our own clinic, and we had a kid, and we have another one on the way. So, oh man, crazy times, that's for sure. And then yeah, during kind of all this, I was kind of going through my my fellowship stuff that Justine was talking about to get my advanced diploma in orthopedics. And then bought a bike, and 2 days later closed the clinic down for because of COVID. So that wasn't the greatest timing on the financial end of things, but great for the sanity part because I managed to go out and ride a fair amount, which was awesome. And then yeah, also too, what Justine said, I'm also working on some of my coaching stuff through Cycling BC, which has been good. It's a big undertaking, more than I realized, but lots of really good things that's coming out of that. So I'm excited to start applying those things. Yeah. So like I said, we have already mentioned that quickly there. So we talked about bike fitting and the injury stuff. So we're kind of armed with that knowledge. And then, so today's going to be on the exercise component of things, which is a big topic, but I'm trying to see if I can kind of keep it as simple as I can there so it makes sense for people. Not that we're all simpletons, but it's easy to get lost in this stuff, that's for sure. Not that I want to put my legal hat on here, but just with anything, obviously, before kind of taking part in any sort of exercise program or wellness program, you always want to make sure that you have the medical clearance to do so. You're totally clear to do these exercises and stuff on your own at your own risk. And so you just want to be mindful of that sort of stuff. And also too, like if you are experiencing any discomfort or faintness or dizziness, shortness of breath, then kind of please stop immediately there and go seek some medical advice. And you should always, like I said there too, there's lots of great physios in the city, so you shouldn't solely rely on this information, because if it doesn't work for you, then totally go talk to somebody who can make it work or come up with some other options here for you too. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So I'll take the legal hat off. And in terms of reps and sets, so I've kind of scattered throughout the slides some reps and set numbers. This is kind of like a loose guideline. You'll kind of see them in these orangey colored boxes. For the resistance exercises in particular, these are just, again, a really rough guidelines. So if you can do more reps, go right ahead and do more repetitions. If you feel like you can't, that's okay too. Just do fewer. Nothing wrong with that. If it doesn't end up being 2 sets of 10, and it's 2 sets of 5. That's cool. You'll definitely get stronger as you do them there. So this is trying to find the right starting point for you. And that's why I kind of said 3 sets of 10. It's kind of old stuff. 3 sets of 10 was like a really kind of rough guideline that they came up with many years ago. And obviously it's really specific to the person in terms of their own, what numbers they fatigue at and that sort of thing. So just to kind of grunt someone through 3 sets of 10 could be unrealistic, because it can be sometimes too challenging or too difficult, and then the movement ends up looking a bit messy, or it's too easy and people should be doing more. So again, well, you got to start with what's right for you. So I kind of broke it down this way. So we kind of have exercise, obviously it's the overarching piece. I kind of broke it down into exercises that address imbalances, and I kind of use that term kind of cautiously, because it's not that we're all walking around super kind of round shouldered and totally out of whack. We can be really strong in opposite directions there with it too. So I'm just kind of more so using the term imbalance as a way to kind of, if we're in this position for a while, then we want to do some opposing movements to kind of help offset that. And then I broke it into exercises that get you stronger, so kind of building up some of the muscles that you'd use that are specific to cycling. And then the rehab piece, or the pain injury piece, I wasn't going to talk too much on that, because that's also a really huge topic and very, very person specific. Everybody has a very different starting point. Not that I'm trying to skirt the question, but it's very, very specific on the person in terms of their goals and their fears with things or with it too, and past experiences rehabbing it and that sort of thing there with as well. So it's that would be a hard one to kind of tackle on this one there with it too. But I'll have my email there up at the end, so if you have any questions in particular, you can fire me an email, or you can maybe talk about some stuff at the Q&A at the end. So in terms of going back to the addressing the imbalances part, so I've kind of broken down into upper body and lower body stuff. And then for the strength thing, there's not a ton of upper body strengthening exercises, because obviously it's a lower body activity, but there is some stuff that kind of links together. Obviously we're a complex moving machine ourselves there with it, so you can't totally isolate things. So some of the lower body stuff will incorporate a few upper body elements to it as well. But that's roughly the kind of the guideline or kind of framework that we'll go with for today. So where we generally hang out, I'm sure you all know, obviously we're kind of hanging out through kind of through here. So we're kind of our neck's looking up, we're kind of curved through our back, and this is obviously a totally safe position. And we generally kind of, obviously as we're pedaling there, we don't really do too much full hip straightening. We're kind of mostly flexed and bent kind of as we go about doing stuff there. And the knee never fully straightens out there with it too, unless maybe your seat's too high and you want to fix that. And then we kind of sit kind of like rounded, kind of, I guess kind of a slouch posture through the shoulders. But yeah, so these are just things that we want to kind of think about in terms of like some of the movement stuff that we can throw into the mix. So we'll start kind of talking about that. I joked and said to one of my other physios that he has pretty much the exact same bike and helmet. And I said, hey man, you should just get that suit. Why not? You're 2/3 of the way there. I don't think he's going to do though, but yeah, anyways, so let's talk about some upper body stuff. So specifically with the upper body, this was just kind of where I broke it down into the angle stuff more specifically. So for the upper body, obviously these are the angles and stuff we'll be hanging out at, and so we're going to do some movements that are kind of opposing to this and kind of strengthening up some muscles on our back and that sort of thing, and around the front part of our neck. So if we start with the neck, some good basic stuff that we can kind of do here would be just doing some basic retraction movements. So if we're kind of sitting a bit kind of chin poked out on our bike, we're kind of sitting in that sort of position. We want to do some things that are opposing to that. So a good real simple one would be doing some chin tucks that you can kind of pretty much do anywhere, either at home while you're watching TV or in your car. You can even do it sitting up on your bike there with it too, obviously. And you're pretty much just trying to think about trying to like kind of lift the back of your head up towards the ceiling there and draw the chin in towards the throat, and trying to do like a 1 to 3 second hold with that. And you can do a round of 10 repetitions kind of throughout the day as you feel like you need to. And then on top of that one, if you want to add a bit more of a challenge, you can, this looks kind of funky down through here, but you can also add like a resistance band to it if you have one of those kicking around your house. And so that would be more so kind of targeting the muscles in the front part of the neck there too. So same movement, you're just adding a little bit of load to it if you feel like you want a bit more of a challenge there. And yeah, doing that for a couple sets of 10, once or twice a day if you want to, or that sort of thing. So the old physio trick is tell people to do their exercises more often than you think they need to in hopes that they do it. So if it ends up being once a day, hey, that's sweet. Or every other day, that's perfect day with it too. But those are, again, some rough numbers you can kind of go by there for sure. Yeah, but that's a really good exercise, both of those. If you want to add to the challenge a little bit more, you can even do lying down, as you can do kind of a chin tuck and then hold it there. So again, for like a 3 to 5 second count. You have to draw the chin in towards the throat, but you're not trying to press your head into the ground or really mash it or that sort of thing. And if you want to challenge even more, which looks really simple, but man, it's a tough one to do, is trying to draw in the chin, just like in the top photo here, but then trying to actually lift the head up off the ground there, off the floor, just a tiny bit. And the trick to this one is trying to keep it up in the air for that long, which I know doesn't sound like much, but also trying not to, as you lift the head, let your chin kind of poke out as you lift it. So that could be another really good one that you can kind of do there as well in the mix before you get out of bed in the morning, or before you go to bed at night, or if you have a chance to take a nap during the day. Those are definitely some good ones too. For the upper back stuff, if you have a foam roller around your house or apartment or condo there, great. Then you can kind of do some foam rolling where you're pretty much just kind of lying with your upper back kind of at the level of like the kind of top of the shoulder blades, kind of down to the bottom there. And you don't need to roll on your neck or your lower back there at all with this one. And you pretty much just kind of like rolling your body up and down over the roller there with it, and just trying to really kind of relax over the roller and just up and down for, about a minute or so. And again, you can do that a couple times a day if you really like it and it feels comfortable and it feels like it's kind of helping just kind of open everything up. The image on the right would be, you could use that roller, or if you don't have one, you can just you can roll up a towel. Putting the feet on the wall really isolates the movement to your upper back, because you kind of tuck your tailbone around your lower back out. So it really kind of puts the focus on through here. This guy's holding a weight on the back of his head, which is just kind of helps assist with the kind of arching component. By no means you have to do that, but sometimes people find that does assist them with their being able to kind of get into that range there a little bit more. But that's just an option you can throw into the mix, and it doesn't have to be much. I mean, it can be 5 or 10 pounds would totally do the trick. And that would be one where you can do 10 or so repetitions there at 3 different points in the upper back, kind of starting at the top of the shoulder blade and just kind of working your way down to the bottom. And again, doing that about a couple times a day there with the 2. But yeah, that's a really good one, especially if you don't have a foam roller. That can be a really good option there with the 2. And you don't have to have your feet on the floor, or sorry, up on the wall. On the floor would be fine too. Kind of on keeping with the upper back stuff, another one you can do is working on, again, like that extension movement. So again, coming out of that position that we're in on the bike and adding in a bit of rotation stuff there with it too, can be really helpful there in terms of we're getting the upper back moving in all directions. So this one you can kind of, they call like a kneeling thoracic rotation or 4-point rotation or whatever you want to call it. But you're pretty much on your hands and on your forearms in this case to really make it specific, and you're just twisting it, throwing it up to look towards the ceiling and then kind of back down, and you're just going back and forth for a minute, and then you can switch hands, do the same thing on the other side, and you're just doing a 1 or 2 second hold with that. Again, doing it a couple times a day. If that's it's a bit of aggressive position. If that's too much, then you're obviously totally fine to, instead of being on your forearms, you can put your hands on the ground and do it that way too. I mean, I have had people do it kind of sitting in a chair would be another option as well, or they can do it in standing, just kind of leaning over their countertop. Sometimes you lose a bit of the focus from the upper back because you're kind of wiggling hips around, but that's okay. But as long as you're kind of doing like that turning where you're kind of arching the back up and then looking over your shoulder, and you're trying to actually kind of dart your eyes at your elbow there if you can. It's also kind of a good way to kind of get the shoulders moving too. So again, coming out of like that slouch position there on the bike. This half kneeling wall windmill, that's a gooder, that's for sure. And this is one where you're just kind of kneeling with your front leg will be the one that's kind of closest to the wall there. And larger ball makes it easier because your shoulder and your arms a bit further away from the wall, so you have a bit more room to do this. It's harder without a ball or with a smaller ball there with a 2. And you're pretty much just gonna have your hands behind your head and you're kind of starting a bit turn and you're just trying to come up and over the wall there. That's a really good one as well. That works multiple different directions there on the upper back too, as well as that extension piece. So I've tried to include all the YouTube links and image links there with it too, so you guys can have a good peek at that as well, especially when it comes up on the handouts there. Hope that works when the PDF gets clicked on. But yeah, definitely have, if you want more information on that to see how it looks, then click on the link there for sure. So the next one will be kind of in line again with some, it's upper back sort of, but it's mostly on the shoulder stuff. So kind of opening up the chest type of movements. So a good one that I'm sure a lot of people have already seen would be like a floor angel. This one I kind of like better than doing it against the wall because you can just relax into it a bit more. And I just realized I totally messed up my description on the first one there. And on the second one as well, so I shall fix that. I'm sure everybody's a super smart bunch of people here. You can kind of see, just ignoring the description there. You can just kind of see just kind of lying on the floor, starting with your arms up and just kind of reaching up overhead. Again, lying down helps you kind of relax into it a bit more as opposed to against the wall. And then if you want to sweeten the deal a little bit more, then you can kind of do it on the roller there. So your kind of shoulders kind of fall kind of back into the horizontal bit there too, which will put a bit more kind of stretch on the front of the chest there too. And again, just kind of going up overhead like that for about a minute, a couple times a day. At least I got the orange boxes right on that one. Sorry guys. Yeah, and as long as it doesn't cause any discomfort in the front of the shoulders, like we're going for a general stretch kind of through here with that one. So if it's uncomfortable there, there's other options that can be done on that one for sure. And again, if you want some stuff, you can always email me. For some shoulder, kind of upper back stuff, this one, Oppo just kind of means like opposing muscle group loading. So a good one for this one would be just doing, since we don't use our back muscles, except for maybe our lower back muscles there, we don't really use our upper back and shoulder muscles on the back part of our body there too much. So a good basic one for these guys would be kind of do like a bent over row, holding on to some dumbbells. And you can also do a bent over row there too, holding on to a barbell if you're looking to get into the heavier weights there with it too. The trick to this one is just kind of making sure you're keeping neutral through the back there, and you're just kind of pulling up to like kind of the lower part of your sternum, because sometimes people pull up like way too high. But you want to kind of pull kind of somewhere, I guess somewhere between the bottom of your sternum and kind of like your belly button. So you're really trying to kind of hoof it in towards you instead of trying to awkwardly trying to pull it up too high. Shoulders will thank you for that one there with it too. And so for this one, yeah, again, kind of doing, a couple sets of 8 to 10 reps or so, a few times a week would be a good one there with it too. This isn't me. People think it looks like me because this guy on social media, I'm like, no, I don't have time to work out that much and get that muscular at this point in my life. Maybe someday though. But this one's a really good one too, because you can actually you can make it super challenging by going all the way to movement C. And you can make it easier by just kind of keeping it between the starting point on the far left and just going to movement A. All of them are really good exercises. This one's especially a real bugger to do, but it's really good exercise. But you're pretty much, you can't really see there on the angle there with it too easily, but it kind of has 2 bands anchored about shoulder height right in front of him, and he's just standing back to put a bit of stretch on it. And then he's holding on to the ends, and he's pretty much just trying to either just kind of go into A, and you can just kind of, like I said, go back and forth from there, or you can go back up into B and then down and then out. And then if you really want to go for it, go into position C where you're up overhead, back down from there, and then forwards with it, and then totally let go. That's a great rotator cuff exercise, but also too just general upper back strength exercise there with it too. So totally feel free to kind of play around with different versions of that one there with it for sure. Again, couple sets of 8 to 10 reps a few times a week can be a good one for that as well, for sure. Good, so then we'll kind of go, we got this guy back here. So then we'll go on to the lower body stuff in terms of kind of working on some opposing movements and kind of balance things out. So for the lower body, again, we're kind of working in like that hip kind of flex position. Knee doesn't fully straighten out all the way there with it too, so we want to kind of work on some full straightening knee stuff. And then the ankle stays a little bit bent there with it too. I know some people do ride a bit heel dropped, which is fine unless you're getting calf or Achilles type of kind of long-standing, kind of persistent tension or some Achilles tendon issues. And I might suggest kind of raising the seat up, or there's other things you can play around there with it too. But generally, we do kind of ride a little bit heel up or toe down as we go. So these are the things that we want to think about for the lower body here in terms of some movement retraining. So since we are kind of bent over there in a flex position there, it's always good to kind of do some backward bending movements there with it as well. So a good couple ones I'm sure people have seen here before. Totally not reinventing the wheel on this one. Is doing some cat cow. So obviously kind of on hands and knees. And so the cat part will be tucking the tailbone and kind of dropping down the head. And then the cat part, or sorry, that's the cow part. And then, no, I'm getting all mixed up myself. The cat part is arching the back up because it's kind of, I think, scared by something or whatever. Then the cow part is kind of in the other direction there with the two. So you're trying to arch your back And you can lift up your head there if you want, but I mean, if you've just been on the bike, you probably don't need to do a ton of that. So you can just kind of keep the neck in neutral on that one too. But you're pretty much just kind of going back and forth, kind of rocking the hips back and then rocking them forwards there with it too, just to kind of work on that. Coming out of that flex position. And then a good basic one you can kind of do just kind of up around it, kind of at work or around the house, just do some putting the hands on your hips and just kind of just doing some repeated kind of backward bending, as long as you're not getting any pain with that. Do some backward bending on that one there with it too, and you're kind of leaning back and kind of like pushing your hips forwards a little bit at the same time. And again, doing 5 to 10 reps or so on that, and just kind of holding each position for a couple moments, couple seconds, and just doing that kind of throughout the day as you feel like you need to on that one as well. So yeah, all really good stuff. And some good stuff to do if you've been kind of sitting for a while as well, just at the desk or wherever, working from home. In terms of some other movements there as well, I mean, we don't do a ton of rotation on the bike, so it's always good just to kind of keep the lower back and the upper back limber there as well. I know we talked about a little bit of lower back stuff there, or sorry, upper back stuff there with it a bit already. So in terms of some lower back stuff, you can kind of do starting out with some basic kind of side to side, dropping the knees out each way, kind of going back and forth about 10 or 15 so times each, and just doing like a short hold. Doing that throughout the day, and then you can do open books, which is a good triple dip, I guess. So kind of stretching out the front of the shoulder, kind of working on some rotation in the upper back as well as the lower back there with the two, or maybe a quadruple dip and get a bit of hip stretch in the mix there with the two. And so you're pretty much just trying to lie down with one knee up. So in this case, you'll have your left knee up and your left arm up kind of overhead, and you're kind of have your right hand placed on the outside of your left knee, and you're just kind of rocking across there with it. You're just trying to look up towards your hand. So it's a good full kind of spinal mobility movement that you can kind of do there with it too, which actually kind of feels actually really nice. And it gives you a bit of a stretch in the front of the chest there with it as well. So definitely a good bang for your buck move on that one. If you're looking for some stuff that you want to do throughout the day that doesn't take up too much of your time. Because well, physio in general, I'm especially in that group where I tend to give a lot of exercises and then realize, oh crap, I have this person doing like 20 different things. Let's scale it down and make it realistic. So like I said, that's a good bang for your buck one. So you can put that one in the mix and tackle a bunch of things at once. So we kind of work down from the lower back and towards the hip. So again, just doing some opposite movements. So doing some kneeling, kind of like a hip flexor stretch, but more so just kind of moving back and forth, kind of doing some short holds there with it too for 10 or 15 times or so on each side, with each knee down, and then just kind of doing that again as you need to kind of throughout the day. The one on the right is it's quite challenging. Some people have a really easy time there with it. Some people have a hard time with it, and that's okay there with it too. It depends on kind of like your hip health. I mean, obviously, if you're getting pain with sitting on the floor, things like that, and kind of deep in your hips there, then I might not maybe kind of go right to this one there with it too. But pretty much what you're doing is like with what this gentleman is where he's kind of sitting on the floor upright. He's pretty much kind of starting with his right knee out, left knee in. So he's kind of got his right hip outwardly rotated, left hip inwardly rotated. And he's actually pretty much, I couldn't find a good picture of this one, but he's actually just kind of starting there. And then he's actually going to bring his knees kind of right up past his chest there, and then they're kind of flopping them down on the other way. So definitely a really good one for hip mobility, which is good. We want to maintain that throughout the lifespan for sure. Again, same sort of thing, doing the 10 to 15 reps and just kind of holding each position there for about 3 or 5 seconds. It can be a bit of a challenging one to do. So if sitting on the floor isn't going to work for you, which is totally fine, then you can also kind of sit on kind of like on a step stool, or even just like a single step or 2 steps if you need to, and just kind of rocking the feet kind of back and forth there with it as well. Like I said, I couldn't really find a good picture of that one, so I'll see if maybe I can take some photos in the clinic here and when we can add that to our database there as well. So, but yeah, both of these pretty much again just kind of doing movements that we aren't really doing on the bike. We just want to make sure we're just kind of keeping ourselves buried and out of that position where we're always flexed. In terms of on that topic of movements we don't really do too much on the bike, this would definitely be one of them. So we are definitely using like our quads and our calves and our hamstrings and our hips. In regards to the hips, like we're not really we're kind of using them to kind of like push down onto the pedals with, but we're not really doing any kind of side to side movements on the bike there too much with it. So this is a really good one to kind of work on the glutes that are kind of on the side, like top side of your thighs. So kind of like your glute med is your kind of most well-known muscle in that area. And so, sorry for the beeping in the background there. And so with this one, some people might have actually seen this exercise where you have the band around your knees or kind of around your ankles. There was a research study that came out last year that said the highest level of kind of glute med, so those upper top outside thigh or hip muscles, is the highest actually when you put the band around your toes. So if you just kind of either you have one of those pre-looped or pre-made looped bands already, you can kind of loop those around kind of your forefoot, or you can take a strip of band and kind of tie it in a knot there too. And you pretty much just kind of taking, if it has the right amount of tension on it, you're not having to take these massive steps, just like what this guy's doing. Like he's actually taking a pretty small step, but he's getting quite a bit of load on the band there. And so you just kind of take a few steps, kind of you know 5 steps to the right, 5 steps to the left, so to speak. I put on here 2 sets until fatigue, because again, this could be one where people get pooped out really quick, or it takes a bit longer. Generally, people can feel this one working really well though, so I just go 2 times until it feels tired, whatever number that is, and just make note of it and build up from there. I mean, if you're kind of hitting 2 sets of 20 or 25, then you're probably getting too good for it, and it should be made harder for you. But that's a really good one too, and it also actually minimizes some of the other muscles that act as hip flexors in the front of your hip there as well. So it's definitely heavy on the glutes, which is good, yeah, a really good one to do there too, a few times throughout the week for sure. Again, I have a link to the YouTube video on that one. In terms of the hip and knee, so this is more so kind of targeted towards the hamstrings. So I know, I'm not sure, I'm not a super popular person on Instagram, but on my Bike Physio account, I have made some comments on there about how I'm not the biggest fan of like stretching muscles in terms of trying to actually get better performance out of them. So specifically kind of like hamstring stretching. So you can lengthen your hamstrings if you really, really work hard there at it with stretching it, but there is some research out there that shows that actually if you load your hamstrings under tension, so like in this sort of exercise, so like a Romanian deadlift, you actually will get muscle lengthening, because the muscle will actually as you're loading it and it's recovering on those days in between the exercises, it'll actually lay down some more muscle fibers, I guess you can kind of say, to actually tack on length to the muscle. So you'll actually get structural adaptation to that one, as opposed to just kind of yanking on it a bunch. So this is a really good exercise to do there as well. Also really good for the glutes and the lower back as well. But definitely hamstrings is something that cyclists can get tight in, just because we're not getting that full knee extension. So this can be a really good one to kind of help kind of lengthen them out. So pretty much just kind of standing there about hip width apart. And you're just kind of thinking about kind of like a bowing motion. So you're hinging at the hips and you're just lowering down until you feel a good stretch in your hamstrings. And then you're just kind of popping back up out of that position there by bringing the hips forward. Yeah, that's a really good exercise if you really want to, if you've been finding you've been having, getting a bit stuck with your hamstring stretching and finding it's not really working there for you, maybe switch gears and or jump ship and try this one out there instead, as long as it feels okay on the back and everything. That's the main thing. And again, yeah, try that 8 rep range, give or take, and then a few times throughout the week. And in terms of, I think this is my last one for addressing kind of like the positional stuff for kind of rebalancing out our movements that we're in on the bike, would be this kind of hits everything. So they call this one the world's greatest stretch. There is some different versions of it. I kind of picked this one here. I can't remember this girl's name, but she's got some really good stuff on her YouTube channel. And this is kind of a modification she's done to it, which I actually prefer for people. And so this one, you're kind of going through a bunch of different movements. So you're kind of starting up in the top left in a bit of a plank position, and then you're kind of going into that downward dog, or just kind of sticking your butt up in the air, and then kind of straighten your arms up overhead. And then you're stepping through, or sorry, kind of off to the side, keeping your hands and your elbows on the inside of that leg, and then you're dropping the elbow down, turning up towards the ceiling. So again, you're getting that upper back stuff into the mix. And then you're bringing the hand back down, coming up into kind of like a half kneeling, getting a bit of stretch through the front of the abdomen and the shoulder, and then definitely the hip flexors on the front. And then you're sitting back to put a little bit of stretch on the hamstring. And then you're stepping back through and putting your arms on the ground, and then you'll find yourself back at the start position there in the plank. And then same sort of thing, stepping forwards with the other leg there with it too. So again, check out that YouTube link, because that's really, it's hard to describe in pictures. I try to break it down by doing a bunch of screenshots of her video there with it too, but those are kind of like the basic movements there to it. But again, you're just kind of hanging out in each position for just a couple seconds. Yeah, and again, there's other ways to kind of modify it there with it too. But a really good, another one talking about kind of bang for your buck. This is also a really good one to do, where it'll kind of tackle a bunch of different things there as well. So if you're a bit pressed for time, give that a shot for sure. Good. So for the getting stronger piece, like I said, there's not really in terms of bike specific stuff. I mean, you do want to kind of be generally strong in your shoulders there with it too, to kind of help with you know, steering and balance on the bike and that sort of thing as well. But I mean, obviously you are going to be using kind of like your trunk, your core, and your lower body the most with the cycling. And so this section again, this is kind of more about kind of cycling specific exercises as opposed to just kind of doing some opposing movements. So in terms of the core stuff, so this guy, he's a physio out of the States. His name's Caleb Burgess, and he's got some really good stuff on his account on Instagram and Facebook there. And so this is one where he's tackling his serratus anterior, which is a muscle that kind of sits in through the shoulders here. It's something that's going to be helpful to strengthen up. Sometimes if people get a bit of shoulder pain in the front of their shoulders, they can be just kind of, or on the back there too, they can just be kind of hanging off these guys as opposed to kind of getting in some other shoulder blade muscles into the mix. So this is another one that's a little bit kind of tricky to see, but in the first position, he's pretty much just on his knees, and he's just kind of rolling the roller away from him, kind of back and forth. And just kind of keeping contact with the arms on it, and keeping the forearm kind of parallel with the ground. Version 2 of this is where he would be kind of bringing his knees further back, so he's kind of throwing a bit of a plank into the mix there with the 2, and again just kind of rolling the arms out and rolling it back in, keeping those forearms parallel to the ground. And then the last position would be more like a full plank, where he's kind of driving his feet into the floor and then rolling it out from there. So again, you can scale it. We're all at different points in terms of like our fitness abilities, and like I said, that's totally fine. So just kind of pick the one that best matches for you there with it. But again, yeah, this kind of tackles some shoulder endurance muscles and some postural muscles there, as well as the core. And I didn't put my little orange box on that one, but this would be one where you definitely do 2 sets until you feel fatigued there with that one, again, a couple times a week. Because that one is quite a challenging one there with the 2, especially when you get out to these 2 on the right. Another good kind of core one there with the 2 is doing some they call them like wood chops. And so you don't have to do it on a pulley machine. You can do it if you have an exercise band or 2 that you can just kind of anchor high up in your door, and you're going to be the side that the pulley or the band is on on that same side is where you'll have your front leg up. So your front leg will be the one that's closest to the anchor point, and then the other knee will be kind of right underneath your torso, and you're pretty much just kind of grabbing on from above and then pulling it kind of down across. You can add a little bit of a twist there to it as well. You don't have to be like what this fellow's doing where he's just kind of keeping totally straight ahead. You can add a little bit of a turn into the mix there with it too. But definitely, obviously, as we're riding there, especially if we're up out of the saddle and we're kind of, going along there, and if we're kind of like turning to kind of look behind us to kind of see the car or where everybody in our group is, small groups, everybody in our group is, then this can be a good one there to do it as well. It will give you a little bit of a hip exercise there with it too, but it's mostly the hips are just working together with the core because they need to. So not really doing too much, but we definitely want to kind of train them up with the core as well. But this can be a really good one. You can also do a different one too, where they call like a lift, where you're just kind of going from anchoring it below to kind of pulling up across you, so you're kind of arms low, hands finish high. But this one's a bit more specific to the cycling stuff. Again, yeah, 8 to 10 reps or so for a couple sets, a few times throughout the week since it's a strengthening exercise. This one I just found, everybody's always doing these exercises with their shirts off. Geez. This one is another really good physio from, he might be Canadian. I think he's from the States as well. His name's Sam Spinelli. This is one that he just posted actually recently that I thought was actually really interesting / kind of more on the fun end of things, because these things can get a little bit dry. This is where he's pretty much holding on to a big plate. He's not trying to lift it off the ground or anything like that, but it's almost kind of like he's using it as like a steering wheel almost to some extent, but he's kind of in a plank position and he's just kind of rocking from side to side. And he's just trying to, the challenge with this one is that he's just trying to roll as far as he can without tipping over and then rocking the same in the direction there with it too. So again, some similar sorts of core movements and stability stuff that we need to utilize while we're on the bike, especially when we're working harder. Just making sure obviously you feel safe doing this one, and you're on a floor with some good grip so the plate doesn't roll out on you. And you're not using the metal plates. You could if the floor is grippy, but I wouldn't use that on a slick floor. And those some plates are kind of like a hexagonal shape to some extent. So that wouldn't really work there either. But yes, just if you have a plate kicking around, or I think what else you could use. Yeah, I guess you could kind of make your own wheel, or if you have an old steering wheel hanging around your house, you could do that too. Yeah, if you're a gym goer, then that's something you can kind of play around with too, which is kind of fun for sure. I haven't, for reps, I said, who the hell knows, because I haven't tried it out myself. And again, this is definitely person specific. So just kind of play around with that one too. And if you want to throw that into your strength routine a couple times a week, that might be kind of fun. Bragging rights for sure if you can do it. In terms of some hip knee stuff for strengthening, so a good one that I like to give people is the front squat. And you don't have to use a barbell. You can just use some regular weights just kind of stacked on the shoulders too. The main thing is just trying to keep your elbows up as you go. And it's just kind of feet kind of a little bit outside of hip width and toes pointed out a tad. And you're just kind of trying to drop your butt down towards the floor. Just trying to keep your torso upright. This is a good one because it does put a little bit more emphasis on the quads. You'll definitely use your hips obviously with this one too, but definitely a good one for putting some emphasis on the quads, which are made for the bike. And then you can also do some stationary lunges there with it too. So kind of working on leg strength in different positions as well. And you can hold the weight in front of you there, or you can just do it with body weight. And same sort of thing. I mean, you could hold on to some heavier stuff there with it too in front of you, or kind of hanging at your sides. I haven't really tried it with a barbell. That would be a really interesting challenge to do, because that'll really get your balance going as well. But that can be another really good exercise there too for the quads as well, and on the hips too, obviously with these guys as well. So again, the usual reps and sets on that one, and frequency during the week. And this one would be, these are definitely like some higher level stuff. Again, shirtless people. it's an interesting trend when you go looking through Google Images. You see a lot of commonalities, and so I guess people just get more clicks if they have the least amount of clothing on. Is the name of the game. But anyway, so these are some really good ones to do as well. So we got some step ups and step downs. So step up, I kind of said you can kind of do plus or minus, throwing in a jump component. So the girl on the left here, she's kind of stepping up onto a bench. You can also use a chair, or if you're out near some stairs, kind of using like 2 or 3 stairs with that too. You're pretty much kind of stepping up, kind of nice and controlled, and then kind of lowering down nice and controlled there with it too. If you want to put a bit more power into it, more kind of plyometric based sort of stuff, which again is really good for some cycling specific moves. You do the same sort of thing. You just kind of go up at a quicker speed and add a little bit of a hop there right at the end, and then just kind of lower yourself down normal speed, and then up on the other side quick, and then add a little bit of a jump, and then lowering down from there too, and just kind of going back and forth. If you're doing that one, usually in terms of frequency per week, more kind of plyometric based sorts of stuff, you don't have to do it as often. You can kind of do it once or twice a week, as opposed to the strengthening and the mobility stuff. But again, just listen to your body on that one. But usually once or twice a week will suffice on that one, just so you get the rest you need. And then the step downs, this is one where I guess you could turn that into a bit of a jump there as well, but this is just mostly focused on really trying to challenge the glutes or your hip muscles there on the stance side. He'll put a little bit of a stretch on the hamstrings at the bottom too, but you're really trying to focus on your stance leg and just making sure that your knee is kind of tracking straight and it's not kind of coming in or out too much there with it too. So you just roughly want to kind of keep it in line with your second toe in that sort of neighborhood for both of these ones there with it too. Whoops, got it overhead there. Whoop, there we go. Ha, my scroll was way too excited. And in terms of some kind of foot ankle sorts of things, so I mean, mostly the emphasis is on the calf as opposed to anything else kind of in the really lower part of the extremities. So just doing some basic single leg calf raises. Again, you can do it off the ledge, you can do it flat off the ground, you can add a little bit of a hop to it as well. But even obviously in terms of a hopping standpoint, you can definitely do just some basic jump rope there with it too. I mean, this is really good for the quads and stuff as well, but definitely it's a good one for the calves to throw into the mix there with it as well. So it's giving it some variability, giving it a little bit some kind of more powerful kind of plyometric moves into the mix there too. Yeah, and so for those ones, again, same reps and sets and kind of frequency on that. I won't belabor that too much, but yeah, definitely some good things there to kind of go from kind of, yeah, top of the body downwards for sure. So you're kind of tackling everything. And these are just some things that I like to share with people in general. I mean, I'm sure probably a lot of you know that Canadians, or North Americans, Canadians, not, you know, we're, I think, based on just like population differences, like we are a bit more active than our neighbors down south. But in general, both countries, we definitely need to kind of get our butts in gear a bit more. Definitely the average adult is nowhere near what they should be for numbers in terms of like the amount of activity they should be getting a week. So pretty much for if you're 18 to 64, or if you're 65 plus, the basics when it comes to aerobic work, you want to be doing about 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week in about 10 minutes or more. I've kind of highlighted down on the list there in terms of moderate intensity. Bike riding is obviously on the list, so we're all a bunch of cyclists here, so that's great. So you're definitely getting your activity in there, especially with the bike go by bike week. So that's great. So you're tackling some of these numbers there already. So so good for you guys. And then in terms of more like vigorous activity, I mean, yeah, they have like cross country skiing, which isn't super applicable right now. These are the Canadian guidelines. So maybe that's why snowy country. But these are from the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology, so that's like their main hub for fitness guidelines. But I mean, yes, they have cross country on there. Swimming, jogging is more kind of vigorous intensity stuff. But I mean, obviously, you know, riding your bike at a really good pace there too, kind of grunting it up a hill, absolutely counts. You'd be surprised how high your heart rate can go with it, which is good. But But those are the guidelines that we want to kind of see if we can hit. And then in terms of differences in strength training between the groups, fairly similar with that. But in terms of people 65 plus, you definitely want to kind of definitely put an emphasis on your mobility and kind of balance the stuff there with it too. I mean, they have falls prevention on here, but that can be for any reason. I mean, if you're playing with your grandkids, you definitely want to be able to get up and off the ground there with it too. So it's not just a falls thing, it's just more so like a quality of life as well. So, but yeah, and of course, obviously too, you can kind of see in terms of those 150 minutes, it does help kind of combat a number of different health issues too that we've been kind of dealing with as a society. Yeah. In terms of the pain piece, I was super jazzed because this girl has a tattoo of Sonic the Hedgehog on her thigh. Yeah, 80s child eggs. But anyways, so for in terms of this is just to kind of demonstrate that like, hey, this looks pretty much exactly the opposite of what you're doing on your bike for the most part. But from a pain standpoint, very generally speaking, you know, you want to kind of make sure that you're keeping your movements kind of varied. Hence the stuff that we've been kind of talking about earlier. And there's lots of studies that have been showing that people that are in kind of more chronic or persistent pain tend to kind of have a reduced kind of movement variability or you know, movement menu, and they kind of get stuck in moving the same way over and over again with these things. So just kind of playing around with movement is a big thing, and just kind of exploring different stuff, just kind of keeping with it within your own comfort zone if you are been kind of dealing with some discomfort, just to kind of nudge and challenge the body in different ways, as long as you kind of perceive it as long as you perceive it and your body perceives it as being safe, just different. And like William Cowper said, their varieties is the very spice of life that gives it all its flavors. So yeah, totally rings true with body for sure. Good guys, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's my contact information there. If you want to get in touch with me, that's my email, that's my Instagram account, and then we have the clinic account there with it too as well. I'm having issues with my posting to Facebook, but that's not a huge deal on my Bike Physio account. But you can definitely get in touch, yeah, by any of those means, even through the messaging service in there as well. Good. So thanks so much for your time, guys. And big thanks to Justine and James and everybody else there at the Bike to Work Society as well for having me back again there with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, the sticker thing. We're almost out of stickers. You guys are active folks, which is great. So we do have them. We're in part of that sticker challenge stuff. We're definitely burning our way through them. I don't know how many we have left, and it's only been a few days, but we definitely do have some. But if you're doing that there to kind of get your name in for the e-bike, and some other stuff there with it too, which is really awesome that these guys are putting on. We definitely have some here too for sure. So so swing by and pick it up if you're in the area, or if you want to be in the area. We're here for you for sure. Cool.
Thank you so much, Evan. Yeah, and thank you for also kind of advertising for the sticker challenge as well. Yeah, folks have been really great about participating in that. And there's a lot of other opportunities for folks who are winning prizes. Just by registering, you're also in the running for winning an e-bike. So everyone get registered. I know most of us were. And thank you all for attending today. We have one more online event for Go by Bike Week this week. It's going to be Friday at 7. We're having our first virtual movie night, and it's a documentary called Ovarian Psychos. So if anyone is interested, you can check out our Facebook page. There's an event page there. And I hope everyone is enjoying Go by Bike Week. Evan, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I think we will probably end it there. We're just at time now. If there were questions, I hope everyone took down Evan's email. Also,
burning through the time as usual. Oh my God. Yeah, please email me for sure, because I realize I never ever leave time at the end too much for the Q&A part, and I'm very sorry about that. There's just always so much to say, but yeah, totally.
There's so much to say. No, it was really great. I also I was like thinking it'd be really great if the prize today was that that suit, like with the The muscles.
Like, you search muscle bodysuit, I'm sure you'll find.
Muscle bodysuit. So yeah, folks, there is a draw prize for just for attending this webinar today. I will email you if you are the lucky winner, and we'll discuss pickup and everything from there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I'm Justine. I'm the Bike Skills Coordinator at Bike to Work Society. This is Evan Thomas. He works for Dockside Physio and is the Bike Physio. Thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. See ya.